Today I'm bringing you the breaking, shocking news that it appears that funding for the USAID from the USAID seems to have gone to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. This is the same place that we are concerned about a lab leak. Now, nobody's for certain as to whether or not a lab leak occurred or didn't occur. CIA is now leaning towards that. A lot of the public think that is the most likely outcome. But what is clear is that it was covered up at the time. Now, I am not just analyzing the politics of it, I'm analyzing the clinical and the scientific implications of what is happening. For those who don't know me, I'm Dr. Philip McMillan. I've been focused on COVID 19 since 2020. I look at COVID as a viral mediated autoimmune disease. It shapes how I think about everything and the relevance that we're looking at to where we are today as the disease continues to spread. So I'm going to share with you a clip that came from someone on Twitter, and this was from Dr. David Cartland, and this here is the what it looks like. They where I'll show the clip from. But before I show the clip, I'll just give you a little bit of background as to what it was that they were talking about. And just in case you don't know, what is the USAID? The Agency for International Development, and its primary aim is the principal U.S. agency to extend assistance to countries recovering from disaster and trying to escape poverty and engaging in democratic reforms. So it's quite a broad reach, and it seems as though since the Trump administration has come in, they have been going through the numbers, and there are some concerns which caused them to try and shut down the department. I don't know if it's been fully done as yet. But the relevance of this is going to be closely linked to a presentation that I recently did. And this is why I said I am looking to give you the relevance as to what is going on. And so at the end, in the description here, you're going to see a link for the spike detox. Does everyone need one? This was quite a long presentation that I did, and we covered quite a lot of areas about the spike protein, location, persistence, how the body gets rid of it, different strategies that people have had, and a remarkable question and answer period. It was a long recording, and so it's one that I think is well worth looking at. But getting back to the issue at hand here, where this clip came from is about a 2 hour video presentation. And what they were looking at there was eliminating waste by the foreign aid bureaucracy. It was held on the 13th of February 2025, and it was in the Senate building. And the person that I'm focused on here is Senator Ernst. And just to see what she's talking about here generally,
with Elon Musk, that we actually have the platform now to get it done. So I'm really grateful.
so this is in effect who I'm going to be focused on, and the work that the question that she had was quite relevant. So take a deep breath. This is important stuff. And it has quite significant implications. As I said, it's not just about the politics as to who did right and who did what wrong. This virus is still circulating. And I keep warning people this is not a normal virus. This is something way beyond anything we have ever seen before. And so, therefore, we need to treat it very carefully and think about what the implications are. So let's go back to the clip that I was talking about. This was again from X, which shows a very specific clip that I think is quite relevant here. And this was from Dr. David Cartman. And I'll just make it large screen here, and then I'll play it for you so that you can hear what she said.
In fact, the bulk of the money came from USAID. Yet no grants to the Chinese lab appeared on USAID spending.gov. It was hidden from the public through layers of unreported subgrants and subawards. Thankfully, my push to defund EcoHealth Alliance was successful, and the group is now barred from receiving U.S. government grants. But this is why my TRACS Act must become law to prevent money being sent to China, the Taliban, or any other foreign adversary. Every grant recipient must be disclosed to ensure accountability. And we shouldn't stop there. My bipartisan Stop Secret Spending Act, introduced with ranking member Peters, would add additional transparency to federal spending. So, Mr. Schellenberger, I'll start with you, please. Why is USAID so secretive about how it spends billions of taxpayer dollars? Is it to avoid the public outrage over the waste, or is there something more nefarious there?
Well, thank you, Senator. And first of all, thank you for your leadership in bringing transparency and accountability to aid and the funding there. Obviously, this example you just gave of the Wuhan Institute of Virology is incredible. I mean, the fact it appears that the U.S. government funded the creation of the virus that caused the global pandemic.
This is important, really, really important. And there's something more in this that I think that is well worth considering. So as you can see, they are acknowledging the fact that funding came not just from the NIH, but also from USAID. Now, when the video was playing, you are probably focused on the people who were speaking. But I want to show you something else here as we look back at the image here. On the right-hand side here, it's talking about the investigator Ben Hu, and it's talking about the funding source, and you can see source of support, NIAID, part of the NIH. And this was from 2019 to 2024, a total of 3.5 million US dollars. And it came through EcoHealth Alliance here. And so this was the important piece of the puzzle. They have now been defunded and they're no longer giving them funds. Again, you can see here another NIAID grant, and this was from 2014 to 2019. And then this was for also 3 million US dollars. And you may say, okay, that's significant, but not so frightening in terms of the numbers. And it does suggest that maybe the US was giving some additional funding, but not necessarily the main funding to this research. However, the next bit, when you look right at the bottom here, this here is from USAID. Total grant amount through EcoHealth Alliance was $38 million, and that was covering the period of 2014 to 2019. This looks as though it was the bulk of the funding, with some support funding from NIAID. It makes it surprising, and it is no longer surprising why a pardon seems to have been issued by President Biden towards Anthony Fauci, because this is pretty serious stuff, because we are still dealing with the effects of this virus. And as I said, the reason why this question comes up about does it matter if it's a lab leak or if it's natural, the reason it matters is from a scientific and clinical and medical perspective. If you are treating this just as a normal run of the mill virus, you're likely to underestimate the capabilities. And this is exactly what is happening now. People are just saying this is just another flu. There's no big deal. It's not anything different from what was before. This is suggestive that we are dealing with something that could be on the level or equivalent to some kind of bioweapon. Really, really important difference. And it highlights, as I said, when we look at the outcomes from, say, Denmark, when we see the 30-day over 65s, 30-day mortality is like about 12%. This is horrific. And it doesn't mean, and actually the 6-month mortality may be about 20% or higher for people who have an infection and end up in hospital. We can't just continue to ignore this. This is pretty serious and it requires some degree of work to try and figure it out. And my thought is that the real problem is to do with the spike protein. And this is what I cover in that course. I'm just giving you a few of the slides here. As you can see, this here is the spike protein. There are about 25 on the surface of each virus. Each one has 3 points that it can bind these to and therefore get in. And so this is what circulates. And I'm beginning to think that the virus is almost a method of spreading the spike protein. Really, I'm switching the angles. Just think about what I'm saying. Normally, the purpose of the entry receptor is to spread the virus. But if what we're seeing is correct, technically the purpose of the virus is to spread the spike protein, because this is what is causing the problems. What I pointed out was the spike protein is like the Velcro ball in that game where a tennis ball just sticks to Velcro. It sticks to so many proteins in the body that this is what I think is primarily the trigger for autoimmune responses. And what can you do? This is the question, is how do we handle this? And as I show in the course and what I've done in the presentation, is that when you look carefully at where the spike protein binds, and they injected it in a mouse model to get an idea, and literally it binds everywhere. These are the kidneys, the heart, the intestines, the spine, the brain, I mean the lungs. It literally goes everywhere. And so when you see this kind of image, and this is what influenza looks like in comparison, so influence, they are not the same. This is a beast of something. And so we need to think carefully about what it is and what the implications of this ongoing circulation means to the health of the population. These are critical questions that we really, really need to answer, and answer urgently. And in the interim, as I say, is while you think about what it is and you can look at the science, I encourage you, think about the spike detox. Does everyone need one? This is a valuable course. It's available to you now. And just as important as the information and the strategies that are looked at, the questions were quite remarkable this time. We spent a lot of time answering people's questions. So I'd encourage you to take a part in it, take a look at it, and see how this can help you as we continue to try and find ways to address these problems. So in summary, it does appear that the funding to the Wuhan virology lab, a lot of it came from the USA, and it seems other parts of the world. It looks as though they were working on a coronavirus, and we can therefore presume the possibility, in conjunction with what the CIA are thinking as well, that what we are seeing in terms of COVID probably leaked from that lab. It's unclear if it was an accident or if it was intentional. But whichever way we take it, you can presume that what was being worked on in terms of gain of function is likely to mean that this is beyond anything that we have ever seen before. So we have many challenges ahead, and you can stay with me on this journey as we try and unpick the science over the next few years. Have a great evening.